So welcome everyone to our GCEC Virtual Connections webinar series. My name is Jeff Reed. I'm the founding director of the Georgetown University Entrepreneurship Initiative, coming to you today from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where I'm attending the Global Venture Capital Investment Competition Finals. But we're proud to have this webinar series available to GCEC members across the world. And today we're going to talk about how to engage your alumni. For those who may be new to GCEC, just a quick refresher or info here for you. This is an amazing community of people from around the world who run entrepreneurship centers and want to share best practices with one another. You can learn from your peers. We have a annual conference coming up in October in Dallas, Texas, monthly newsletter, webinar series like this one, and lots of ways to stay connected and learn from one another. So it's a great organization to be a part of. Today, we have some amazing panelists who are going to each share what they've learned about the topic of how to engage alumni in your entrepreneurship center. And each one will give a presentation about their program and what they've learned, and then we'll have some Q&A and discussion. We encourage our audience throughout the program to engage using the chat function, and I encourage my fellow panelists here to feel free to answer chat questions whenever you're not live speaking. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to I'm going to unshare my screen here. Let's see, and turn it over to our first panelist, who is Ebony Miller-Wellesley. Ebony is the director of the Center for Urban Entrepreneurship at Rochester Institute of Technology. So Ebony, over to you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for that, Jeff. Can everyone hear me here?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So as Jeff mentioned, I am Ebony Miller-Wellesley. I am the director of the Rochester Institute of Technology Center for Urban Entrepreneurship, where we are community focused. So yes, we do run entrepreneurial programs and provide entrepreneurial services, but unlike most of our other academic institutions who offer entrepreneurial services, our focus is the community. So that means that anyone with the passion, mission, or vision to start a business or social venture has the opportunity to do so, regardless of their relationship with the Rochester Institute of Technology, meaning they do not have to be student, faculty, or staff to benefit from our programs and service offering. That said, we offer general education programs. We offer mentoring and one-on-one support. We have shared workspace. We have customized training. And all of that is offered under, one roof. We have entrepreneurs that can't necessarily afford market rate rentals. So they are looking for somewhere to set up in the heart of our downtown Rochester area, which is where we are located. That said, we have shared workspace that they can utilize at a very low cost, as well as receiving services from us while doing so. As I mentioned, we have general education programs. Those are workshops that are offered to anyone, regardless of what stage they are in their business. Whereas our customized training is offered to entrepreneurs that has been in business for at least a year or more, and they are looking for growth stimulation. So whether that be they're looking to change their product offerings, they're looking to pivot, they're looking to increase the amount of space that they occupy for their business, or looking to go from online to a brick and mortar, we will assist them with that by way of our capacity building program. The program runs from 4 to 6 months, depending on the modules that we are covering at that time. And those modules depends on the entrepreneurs that are part of that cohort. There are several different modules that they go through, which are deemed necessary for growth stimulation. That includes sales, marketing, branding, human resources for small business, legal, business structures, accounting, etc. And that's pretty much what we do in a nutshell. So at this point, I guess I could offer or answer any questions that anyone may have, because I'm sure that there's a lot of questions out there as to the why, what's our why do we exist? probably more questions about, what are the other entrepreneurial services that are in our area and how do we assimilate with them or work together with them. So
Ebony, I'll jump in. So can you tell us how you engage alumni in the work that you're doing there?
Absolutely. So engaging alumni is no different than the way that I would engage any other philanthropist. So, it's really about relationship management, really identifying, the funding priorities or priorities of that particular individual, and highlighting ways in which the work that we are doing here would coincide well with the priorities that they have at that time. Another way that I engage our alumni is really being in the spaces that they occupy. So that means that I can't just sit at my desk and hope to engage them. So if we have an event coming up where we know that alumni are going to be present, then it means that I need to be present. Sometimes it means meet them where they are. So, even if I'm traveling and I know that there's an RIT alumni event going on in that area at that time, being that I'm an alumni myself, I'll attend it. So really, putting ourselves in the situations where we do have access to them, and really having those conversations to identify what their priorities are at that time and sharing with them the work that we're doing and going from there. I can't hear you, Jeff. You're muted.
Thank you. Sorry for that. So I see you're starting to get some Q&A in the chat, so I will let you dive into that while we turn to our second panelist. And I think I'm going to have some questions for you later on as well.
Perfect.
Thank you for helping kick us off. Next up, we have Richard Tunstall. Richard is the Academic Director and Associate Director of Enterprise for the Center for Enterprise and Entrepreneurship Studies at the University of Leeds. And I understand it's a happy hour time for you over across the pond, Richard. So we appreciate you being here, and I will let you take it away.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much, Jeff. That's a fantastic introduction. It's 5 o'clock here in the UK, and I'm still in the office, but that's okay. I'm here for you. So we have 7 minutes, so I'm going to be quick, but I put together a quick slide deck. I'm an academic, so I'm an associate professor in the Centre for Entrepreneurship in the Business School, but I also have a role to support student entrepreneurship across the university as an academic director. We don't quite have the same centre structure as the US. What we do is have more of a network structure. We call that Enterprise at Leeds. And obviously the focus for us today is to talk about engaging alumni. So I'll take you a few of those things as well. This is an exciting video, very exciting. I thought I'd give you something moving, but it's just to show you what the campus looks like, first of all. So just to give you an idea about this, University of Leeds is a UK institution. We're a top 100 world research university, so very research focused. We cover all disciplines, so everything from fine arts to medicine. Hopefully you're not getting motion sickness so far watching this, by the way. And then we also have about just over 30,000 students. So we're a big civic research-led university. We're in a professional city with industrial heritage and textiles in particular, and manufacturing. Now, of course, the emerging technologies are around fintech, around medtech, around creative arts. As a university, we've won 3 big national awards for entrepreneurship in universities, and a few years ago, and more recently 2 national exemplars from a UK organisation called the Small Business Charter Awards, which was for our minor programme, which is quite unusual in the UK in enterprise, and also for our entrepreneur in residence programme. And that all really takes us on to this question of alumni and how we build these in. Oh, we don't want the video again. So this is just kind of an overview of what we mean about our offer. So some of these you'll recognise from your approach towards centres, some is much more campus-wide. So we have a whole range of programs we offer, some from our own academic unit, which offers courses to all students across the university, not just in the business school, with interdisciplinary teams. But we also find out those other courses across the university that might also want to be identified as entrepreneurship and innovation, and we bring them in to our network as well. Our closest version, perhaps, to a traditional startup support side of a centre is our group called Spark, who provides student startup support, competitions and incubation. We have an educators network for academics and practitioners. We have our enterprise ambassadors, our entrepreneurs and residents, I'll talk about in a minute. We're just developing some brand new space called Helix at last to allow us to do some more fun stuff in evenings. And then the other really important thing for us is we're very much linked to what we call our provost. The provost office has a huge amount of support, and we have this structural support through enterprise that leads as well. So that's just some brief background before going into a bit more about the what we do. But the key thing is our activities, our programs or initiatives across courses, curricula and co-curricula. And across all of these, we're starting to really try and identify how alumni fits in. So I want to think about three categories. There's, from a university perspective, our traditional philanthropy and alumni giving. There's what we do around our startup support for students. And then there's what we do through the curriculum. And those three things I'll just try and touch on briefly. So in terms of how we think about this university-wide, we do have a university advancement team, an alumni office, but additionally Spark and my academic unit Cs work very closely with alumni too. So we look at it in a kind of a micro way, focusing on our specific needs, but we're also effectively a gift to the advancement team. We'll talk about that again, about how we support them. So we've got alumni who are engaged in philanthropic giving, particularly around entrepreneurship innovation generally, and around 100 alumni donors specifically to student startup at the moment. A few examples of some of our named awards here, and you'll see some of these are more about how do we get more innovation from research more broadly. But our last one, the Sir Peter Thompson dinner, is worth mentioning. So I think this is a big thing about moving from this idea of, are our philanthropists and our alumni, are they giving back? Or are they that can develop from that initial involvement to how am I making a difference? So I think with Adam Beaumont, Michael Beverley, they're very laser focused on specific areas they want to support around tech for Adam Beaumont, around medicine and innovation for Michael Beverley. And then the next level is this idea of a legacy. How do I give something that actually makes a lasting impact? And so Peter Thompson, who sadly passed away last year, he was involved right from the beginning of our entrepreneurship giving about 10 years ago. I should add, alumni giving, advancement giving is quite rare in the UK. It's not our traditional model. So for us, it's really been that 10-year heritage. So Peter Thompson was giving specifically to businesses, but he was really keen to create what we call the Sir Peter Thompson dinner, which is really about the ecosystem. How do we have a gala dinner, a big celebration that brings everyone together, celebrates the students, but also, from his perspective, bring in more donors. Let me as a donor help you bring in more donors. It's like, how do we create that catalyst? And what's interesting, particularly now that Peter sadly passed, a good friend of his called Michael Collins, who was not himself one of our alumni, has decided to continue that, and in Sir Peter's name, continue that gift and that support as well. So in terms of our broader use around development of alumni and engagement, we can think more specifically around student startup. So Spark, as our student startup group, have existed for around 15 years. We've reached the point now in our ecosystem where we have graduates of that program now saying, what can I do to give people the experience I had in the past? And so that's what I mean by trying to begin this idea of a virtuous circle. So the kind of things they might do would include mentoring, judging, providing specialist advising. That might be the initial steps and support. And then we've seen that develop into areas around specifically investing and giving around student needs, supporting particular social impact, how can we create more social entrepreneurship, and how we support the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So people like Simon Darkram here has been he created his own social enterprise through Spark. He's really keen to say, how can we create more social enterprise support? James Gupta, the CEO of Synap, one of our graduates from the Spark program, has more specifically now said during the pandemic, helped us to get our entire platform online and create a digital footprint through his own tech team supporting us. So it's a non-financial gift, but it's about how his approach towards how we can support the ecosystem. And then finally the academic side. So we've had over the past 10 years about 50 enterprise ambassadors, our name for entrepreneur in residence, who support us directly in the curriculum. So that can be through things like mentoring, guest lectures, judging, debates, networking, masterclasses. They're both alumni, but also external growth businesses who've joined our network through different ways of accessing us. The kind of things they might be looking for in return is often, they want to look for the next top talent for their businesses. Some of them are acting as suppliers to the university. Some of them might go on to then advise our own curriculum. So we will ask them in our master's programs, what should we be doing? How can we engage in that? And might also act as ambassadors of our university to the business network externally, telling people you ought to get involved in Leeds, it's fantastic. We've also seen places where those advisors have supported each other. So we know enterprise ambassadors creating business contracts between each other, giving each other business advice, even investing in each other. And that sometimes has also led to gifts to the university too. And I think the final thing to mention is just, I think for us, the next step is how do we get Leeds Enterprise something that's Leeds for life? So we've already seen students who've gone from graduating to referring other people you want to do this course to them providing us from their own businesses, enterprise projects in terms of our modules, and then becoming advisors and ambassadors themselves. So very recently, Georgia Howard, who graduated 2 years ago, he's running a social enterprise called Girls in Charge, said, can I give you a project? I did a great project module with you. Can I go and bring something in? And so I think from these different generations of alumni, it's this question of how do we engage people where they are, start those conversations, and really develop that partnership that lasts as well. That's it. I might be over my 7 minutes, hopefully not too much, Jeff.
That's okay. Richard, thank you. Tremendous amount of activity and programming there. Thanks for sharing that. I do have a couple of questions. You mentioned at the top of your presentation that you are an academic.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned something that I've heard a lot over the years is that the traditional role of fundraising is very different in the United States than it is around the world. It sounds like you've had some amazing success in fundraising and engaging in this building networks and engaging alumni. And my question is, how does this fit into your job description, for instance? Do you, traditionally the academic structures don't reward the activity that is required to build relationships, work with alumni, and even actively engage in fundraising and that sort of thing. When you go up for your annual review, they probably ask you about what papers you've published and how is your teaching going. So my question is kind of like, how does this fit in? How have you carved out the time to do all this? And is it something that your institution supports you doing, or have you just kind of figured out how to do it on your own?
Thank you. So yeah, I think it's taken time to get to the stage we're at, undoubtedly. And I think part of that is the specific work I do is identified as a leadership role. And part of our approach is there's a group, we've always had the mission of supporting the whole university. And that's developed and to be able to say, well, actually, my leadership role then is the business school supporting the university to say, what's the business school giving to the university? So this leadership role supports that. It's becoming increasingly likely that we see people leading institutes and research groups saying that part of their job description is engaging alumni too. And I think in that sense, it's possible to put it in my job description to say, that's also part of what I'm doing because I'm developing that ecosystem. I think the next stage for us is to say, well, how can we take that further? And that's the next stage for us, I think, next year to say, actually, probably Richard needs a bit more time. But that's always a negotiation, isn't it? But I think that's certainly the way we would look at it is to say, yeah, you've got your publications, your teaching, this is a leadership role. But to my mind, it's like saying, we might, as academics, go out looking for research grants, or we might go to the government or to external corporates to say, can you fund this program? There is no difference. It's just that the people we're working with and the support relationship we're trying to develop is different in that way, I think.
Excellent. Yeah. And I've got another question, and I know there's a lot of activity going on in the chat as well. But my question is around other support within the university. So you kind of mentioned, or I asked you around how the leadership supports you and your job description in doing this, but do you work closely with the alumni affairs team or fundraising team, and anything you've learned from those experiences that might be valuable for others to learn from?
Yeah, so we're very fortunate at the university, again, relatively unusual in the UK, that we've got a very developed development team. One of the things that's worth mentioning is we no longer call them alumni development, we call them advancement.
Right.
And the difference is that it's not just about alumni, it's anyone who wants to work with us and partner with us. So that's the important distinction, I think. And I think there's two sides to that relationship, which is they in advancement are seeking to both work with external partners who want to have a relationship with the university. So they're trying to support their way in. And they're also trying to align to the strategic asks from the university. What is the university looking to gain? Our role then is really a partner with the advancement team to say, actually, we can answer some of these problems. So one of them is there are often alumni who'll engage, who'll say, well, you know, I've just sold my business. I'm really looking for something to do. And then we are constantly looking for entrepreneurs to come and talk to our students. So that's almost like an easy win-win. The next stage is saying, well, if we want to develop our offer, is that strategic to the university and how is that going to fit into that overall picture? I think that's the next stage then to say, we can actually make that a relationship that's not just us giving, but actually us working together more closely, I think.
Well, you make it sound easy, but I know from firsthand experience, it's not always easy to take those inbound requests. And, you know, I do think part of what we have to do as center directors is create these engagement opportunities. And sometimes the individual may become a donor to your program, or maybe they end up donating to some other part of the university. And that's just part of what we have to do as kind of team players. But it takes time and it takes work. And sometimes it's not easy to plug that person who's offering to help into, you know, the right slot. Like, hey, I want to be a guest speaker. Well, okay,
no,
is there a class that where their expertise fits, and does the timing work? And, you know, those kind of things can it's just a lot of work to do. So
you're right. And I think on that level too, just one quick point was that one of the things we've been very careful to do is we're very clear to define the kind of entrepreneurial communities that we have in the university that we recognize. We're quite clear about defining what those roles are. So as an enterprise ambassador, you're signing up to a certain set of principles. And there are also certain principles that we sign up to in a small partnership agreement. It's not a contract. It's just because these people are giving their time for free. It's not a paid role. But within that, we're saying there are certain boundaries about what we will ask and what we won't ask, and what they will give and what they won't. And that means that when we're having that conversation with advancement about this person wants to engage, we can say, okay, these are the parameters. And there might be things outside of that, but then we need to discuss that. And so it's trying to give ourselves a little bit of guidance. And I think it's about fairness on both sides. No one wants to engage with the university and say it's not really quite working. So it's trying to make that clear, I think, too.
You've got to set expectations appropriately, right?
Yeah.
We get a lot of folks wanting to be mentors and coaches, and, you know, there's a vetting process that you have to do. Some of that is making sure they're in it for the right reasons, not trying to take advantage or attach themselves to a money-making opportunity. So awesome. All right, I'm going to ask you some more questions in a little while, but first let us get to our third panelist. So thank you again, Richard. So next up is Victor Batia-Taylor. Victor is the Director of Mentor, Advisor, and Partner Networks in the Sci Center for Innovative Thinking at Yale University. Victor, over to you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Really happy to be here, and also for having this opportunity to talk to my peers, the GCEC community. Wonderful to see how global this community is. Well, today we're here to discuss, the importance of alumni engagement for our entrepreneurship centers, and of course, how these can be achieved to support the innovators we serve. I would like to take this opportunity to, talk about mentorship, the mentorship program we run at Yale. It's a layered mentorship program, and how we are engaging our alumni on campus, online, and on the road. I stole that phrase from one of my colleagues at Yale Development. But yeah, my name is, as you heard, Victor Padilla-Taylor, and I supervise the mentorship programs at the Sci Center for Innovative Thinking at Yale. And it's a new center. It's a new kid on the block with a really interesting mission, which is to inspire students from diverse backgrounds and disciplines to seek innovative ways to solve real-world problems, and real-world problems that matter to them. And so at SciCity, which is in short how we call our center, you will find a new way of approaching innovation in a very, very old institution, Yale University. By the way, if you want to hear more details about all the things that we do at our center, feel free just to just snatch this QR code in the screen, and that will take you to the application that we submitted to GCEC in 2021, which in fact, thank you, peers, gave us the Outstanding Emerging Entrepreneurship Center Award that year, which was a joy to have after the pandemic experience. And so, yes, we're fresh. We are modern. You can see a picture of our center right there in the middle of very old structures on campus. And in fact, in this very same building today, finally, we're hosting our annual student competition for founders and New Haven community members to win prizes across 8 different competitions or tracks in the sum of $175,000. And so it's quite full downstairs. I'm on the 2nd floor, and we're really happy to have this asset for our students. And so, before I share more about why we think that our mentorship, programs, it's like a backbone for entrepreneurship on campus, just let me tell you that we are building bridges to innovation for many different types of students, entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, creatives. We have those that we call civic innovators and also explorers. And this is because we believe that every student has a very unique pathway to innovation. And so to support these entrepreneurs, these civic innovators, these creatives, we need the help of alumni. We just can't do it with the staff we have. And again, to understand more why this is our reason, you can also use this QR code you can see on your screen that will take you to an article where we describe our pathways approach and why we launched it a few years back, just a couple years back. And that informs how we approach our alumni to support us, by the way. And so, when alumni come, Yale alumni come to us, deciding or asking questions about how to become a mentor with us, we have a very, very wide open door, because we have alumni from all walks of life, from all locations around the world, who have interesting lives and experiences. And you know what? We think that this diversity that they bring to us is quite important to building our mentoring capacity as well. Because in a way, we're looking at our students and we see their diversity. And so in a sense, we're trying to find the same diversity in the people that we are putting them to chat with and get advice from. And this could be, diversity in multiple dimensions. And it's really, really important, just to have representation as well on that note. Now, if you have come to some of my sessions at GCEC, you will hear me often saying that similarity is overrated, and happy to expand on that in the Q&A if you're curious. But we think that alumni have this really, really important role in our community, no matter what is the size of their company or venture or organization. We think that they have a role to play in our community. Now, the way we bridge the opportunity and the current reality in the problems that their students are bringing to our center is basically, in a way that is quite known around the world. I'm sure that most of you have heard about this framework for coaching, the GROW framework, where you establish some goals, you then determine the reality, where you are, how far away you are from that goal, and then to close that gap, you start thinking about the options, and that's where mentorship comes to play. And then you decide what the way forward would be to continue working on closing that gap. And so whenever we talk about mentorship, this is the language that we use with mentors and mentees. And we make it very clear that the decision on the way forward is made by the mentee. So mentors are not supposed to come and just say, hey, this is what you need to do. Instead, they are supposed to inspire and brainstorm on the options for the way forward for these students. And so our GROW model, has allowed us to connect students not only with like-minded individuals, but also with like-hearted people, which I think it's also important in this work. And so I want to share with you why, students in alumni, specifically alumni, are really being attracted to our program. We're currently having 500 mentors supporting our programs. And for that, we have three secret ingredients. Number one, we have a program that is quite fluid and also layered. In that sense, fluid means it's not frozen. It's not one single approach. We have multiple approaches to use the time and availability and talent of our mentors. But we also constantly iterate so that we can find the better approach to meet the needs of all the students we have on campus. And it is also layered. And I hope that you will see this graph here. It is layered because we start engaging our students, our staff in our center through office hours. But we're not the only ones talking to them, of course. We connect them with venture advisors who can meet with particularly those that are working on our venture development programs every week. But we also introduce them to lead mentors, typically alumni from our network, who spend 1 hour per month with these students. But that's not the only thing we do. We in a way are grateful to the support of the university, because when COVID hit, we knew that it was going to be difficult to do this work and to stay connected. And so the university invested in an online platform called Cross Campus that allowed students and alumni to connect with each other and network and support each other throughout the pandemic. And now it is also supporting our work in connecting innovators with alumni. Just in 2 years, we have been able to pair 6,000 mentees and mentors. And that has really catapulted the way we support our students. And of course, I don't need to tell you all about the importance of our networks like LinkedIn and other means in which, students and alumni can connect. And so very helpful to have a program that is, as I said, fluid, layered, also supported with tools that allows us to be effective. And so we have a Salesforce and a Salesforce instance, a CRM product that allows us to do a lot of these very boring activities, managing mail in an automatic way and request at multiple times of the mentoring timeline feedback from the participants. And that allows us also to see these beautiful dashboards. I know that GCEC folks love metrics, and we love them too. And so, of course, this layered support cannot function if you don't have the right tools. And, happy to chat more about, how we use Salesforce in our case. So that's ingredient number one. Ingredient number two is something that Ebony and Richard have already said. It's not just meeting our alumni on campus, it's also meeting them online, as I mentioned, and also on the road. You gotta be where, our alumni are. You can't just stay on campus. And that's why, for example, I partner with our Department of Development, and they are really generous at supporting us. They have this program called Red Path Speakers, and they're constantly announcing to our community that, hey, we're coming to a location near you. just to chat about what's going on at Yale and beyond. And so I think it's important to have this multidimensional or multi-channel, if you want to call it, approach to engaging with alumni so that they can come and support your innovators. Again, Cross Campus has been great. The platform runs on People Grow. That's the commercial there. I know no one is there, but if you're curious to know what tools we're using, that's why I'm mentioning it. Now, the third ingredient, and I'm about to finish, Jeff, no worries, is that we approach a mentorship as a lifelong, let me see if you can read it here, learning opportunity. So it is not something that you create for the students for the time they are on campus. No, we think that the lessons they can learn through proper mentorship will stay with them and serve them well the rest of their lives. And, we're being experimental on these things. During my last session at GCEC in Las Vegas, I was able to use some eye openers to discuss the importance of having the right mindset around mentorship. You may remember, Jeff, you were there. We talked about, not only searching for yes, which is something that students struggle with because they don't like when mentors tell them, no, this is not a good approach. We also talk about, finding boulders, not only bridges in the pathway towards innovation. And so understanding that sometimes critique can be hard, but it's quite important. We talked also about, just getting rid of your darlings. Sometimes to pivot, you need to teach students to get rid of those features that they like the most. And lastly, another eye-opening that we have used is, don't be an island. It's an invitation to get out of your own box and support others, get support from others in very particular ways. Last thing I want to say, again, Jeff, we're experimenting because this is lifelong learning. We're trying to launch a pilot on coaching, and that means supporting students, the innovators, and not just the innovation. And for that, I'm glad that we are receiving the help of Eckerd College. They have this beautiful tool, this assessment called the Entrepreneurship Mindset Profile, which is the starting point for these conversations. With that, again, thank you so much for listening about how we run mentorships here at the SAI Center for Innovative Thinking. And I'm happy to take more questions from our peers.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Victor. And I will absolutely endorse Victor's workshops. I think I've attended 2 of them, and I can't recommend it enough. If you're attending a GCEC conference or anywhere else where you get a chance to take one of Victor's interactive workshops, it's a great learning experience. It's fun, and you learn some cool things along the way. So thanks for that great presentation. I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to then actually turn the same question to Ebony and Richard. And it goes along with what some people are asking in the chat now. And it's around what happens when things go wrong? Like, do you have any experiences where an alum, maybe they were a mentor or some other role, did something that wasn't good? How do you vet? How do you deal with it if somebody gets advice, if a student doesn't like the advice they get, or there's any number of ways things could go wrong. Can you share any examples of where that's happened in your program and what advice you have for others who might be trying to prepare for or avoid the same issues? And Victor, you can go first, and then we'll turn to Ebony and Richard.
Yes, I think there's an illusion out there about perfect mentorships. And we tackled that right away, saying that we're not trying to find the best mentor for each of our students. Instead, we say, listen, mentorship for you, the best mentorship for you isn't a single person. And so, yes, there are imperfect matches. We tried to work one case at a time. Sometimes we need to dissolve these pairings so that the student is protected and also the student is able to learn the experience. As I mentioned, sometimes it is, I felt that he was too harsh in his or their feedback to me. And so we start asking questions. We, of course, welcome that type of feedback from our participants, but we start asking questions about the event. Is it that the student hasn't learned to search for no when looking for mentorship advice? Or is it truly a mentor that actually is not the right fit for this student? We have had some experiences where, particularly around differences of gender, a female founder may feel that the mentor is not behaving in a trusting way. And so we love to hear about those situations and interact with both parties to protect the relationship. Now, the best advice I can give anybody that is running a mentorship program is to set the expectations, the right expectations right from the beginning. And we don't have like large contracts to do that. We have 3 specific expectations for mentorship relationships that actually involve both parties. First one is confidentiality. If there's a breach of confidentiality, of course, that means the pair's not working. And everybody is asked about respecting that first expectation. Number 2, conflict of interest. We have a very robust and ordered method to incorporate, for example, investors into our network. Because sometimes you find these situations where, I want a mentor, but instead what they want is, more opportunities for their pipeline. And so we say, hey, if you're serving with us, it is for the love and because of the fire you have in your belly, and not because you're expecting some reward. And the last of the 3 expectations that we have, which is something that Yale University takes very seriously, is that every member of our community is working on creating an environment of trust in everything that we do on campus, online, or on the road. And that means 0 tolerance for sexual misconduct. And we're clear, and we ask every member of our community to abide by these standards. There's a very, very strict policy around this. And yes, you risk being kicked out of our community if you're doing something conducive or related to that. We don't tolerate mentors that say, oh, you know what, I can't come to campus, but you can come to my apartment at 8 p.m. in New York if you want to talk about this venture. No, that's not possible. We tell our students to right away lift the red flag so we avoid these situations. I hope this is helpful, Jess. That's how we handle it.
Jessica echoed my thoughts in the chat. Yuck. Based on that example. Yeah, I know we've had to fire mentors in our program, either because they were trying to get personal gain, or we had multiple complaints that sometimes you have a smart person who wants to do right, but maybe they don't have the right coaching mindset. They want to say, here's how you should do it, as opposed to, a more education mindset. Okay, so Ebony or Richard, what do you guys want to add in on this? And Ebony, you can go first. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
So, one of the things that I pride our department on is that we are not here to reinvent the wheel. So that said, we particularly for our department, we do not have a mentorship program where we focus on engaging the students. However, I am a mentor for students as part of the leadership program, which resides under our Saunders College of Business. So there's a mentoring program where students receive a leadership certificate in addition to whatever discipline they're looking to get a degree in. So I am involved from that aspect. So each semester I'm assigned either 1 or 2 students, but we do assign our entrepreneurs. And one of the key factors I think that I left out when I was speaking is that the population that we serve is the underserved, low tech, no tech, your small mom and pop service businesses. So oftentimes these are people that entered the market out of necessity as opposed to opportunity. So they likely lack an academic background. They likely lack resources available to them where they can tap in to their family because they come from a lifelong connection of entrepreneurs. So that likely is not the case for them. So instead of them being able to tap into their familial resources, I will pair them up with a mentor. In the past, we've worked with SCORE. So this leads to have the question of, have we received a complaint? So from that aspect, yes. So, you know, if you're familiar with SCORE, it stood for the Service Corps of Retired Executives. And for those of you that are not familiar with the organization, in our area, most of them were white males. So that said, if you're dealing with someone from an underserved background who lack, you know, a background in academia, so they never received a college degree, nor have they, some of them never been on a college campus. So again, they've entered the market out of a need. So that said, it can be kind of uncomfortable when you're speaking to someone that have had 30 years at Kodak or Xerox or Bosch and Lomb. It can be intimidating. So that said, they come to me, they'll complain, and then I'll go back to these mentors who I'm very comfortable with, but that's not my reality. So I have to be sensitive to that. And with that being said, you know, we'll speak to the mentors, we'll talk to them about the pain points that have been identified to me, and we'll either, you know, revisit that topic with the entrepreneur or pair them up with someone else that comes from a relatable background. So really, the key is paying attention to their needs and moving appropriately. SCORE, I will say, has since changed the way that they operate in our area. And so they have a lot of females that are now SCORE mentors. They have SCORE mentors that are from an underserved background to really reach a different population that they have not been able to reach in the past. So I hope that answers the question.
No, that's great. Thank you. And Rich, tell us, how many times have things gone really just terribly wrong at Leeds? Or what have you seen that you might share with others here?
Things never go wrong, never go wrong. I think so I'll give a quick, to relate back to mentoring and then move forward a little bit too. So in our Spark program, we have a small group of mentors, and those will mix between some who are paid and some who are volunteering their time. But I think there's a very careful approach towards managing that process and making sure that there's a very clear relationship between how those student startup businesses are match made with the appropriate mentor and how that works. I think but otherwise I'd say, you know, very similar to the processes others have talked about on that. So I think the other element though is obviously my engagement is also in the curriculum, and then we have a wider range of support for alumni too. And I think part of it is saying, you know, there's always an opportunity. So if something happens where we think this actually seems a bit uncomfortable, either for the student or for the person who's giving their time, then it's about having a conversation saying, actually, there could be something else we could try. But it's never about saying, you know, this doesn't work. It's about saying, oh, thank you very much. That was fantastic. But we're going to try this time. And equally, but that really means a culture of openness and listening, both with the students and with the people giving their time, to be able to be attuned to that. And also needs change. So over time, what someone's doing for is might go, you know, I want to do something fresh now. So it's about always trying to adapt that, make sure that students realize this is not just the only opportunity, there's going to be more to come, and trying to remember you've got that breadth and focusing on where people are best going to fit, I think is the key thing.
Yeah. I can share, we had an experience where, you know, one of the things we try to do is create a lot of interactive opportunities. And we had a summer incubator, student businesses, and we had an open house event. And there was a particular alum who would come and essentially try to get business as an attorney with these companies. And he'd offer free legal help. And it seemed like the nicest thing in the world. And I think the students assumed that because this person is an alum and they met them at one of our events, that there was no problem engaging. And we then had a dilemma. You know, this person ended up doing some pretty poor service for some student entrepreneurs. And so we had to decide, you know, do we start closing the events or do we just have to essentially warn our students, you know, don't assume everybody that you meet is going to be the right person. So it's a balancing act, right? Because you want to have a lot of interactive opportunities. You don't want to try to police everything, but sometimes you have to just warn, especially young students who assume that anybody that they meet through their university maybe wants to be there to help them. So it's kind of a challenge. Yeah. All right, I'm going to shift gears because we're talking a lot about mentoring, right? And this whole conversation I think it illustrates the fact that so many of us are using alumni as mentors in a really big way. But a question I have for you guys is, do you have any programs that actually are designed not to not to utilize alumni, but to actually serve alumni. Are alumni ever the target of your programming, whether it's incubators or investing or mentoring or things like that? Are there ways you engage alumni as your customers?
I can speak to that, Jeff, because I think being a center that is focused only on current students at Yale, we get that question a lot. And we get it from recent alumni, from alumni of, several decades ago. And that's where the power of partnerships comes to play. The alumni community at Yale is quite robust, and we have shared interest groups. That's how they are organized. And there is one group that is particularly active that has been growing every year, which is called Accelerate Yale. And so they support alumni. They are willing to invest in alumni ventures, perhaps even in more with more figures than what we can. And so it's easy for us just to channel these requests to partners like that. And it's just beautiful to see how that's also another part of, let's say, the house that is, ordered and clean and productive.
All right. I know I already asked one question, but I'm going to make this our final question. Any other last comments? You can either speak to the topic that I brought up a second ago, or anything else you want to share with our audience here before we have to close out.
Just quickly, I guess that in terms of the alumni program, so Spark Student Support Service at Leeds is free for use for all students. They have to put in a pitch, of course, but beyond that, it's free. But that's for all students up to 7 years after they graduate. So, and our approach with that has been, we're treating student entrepreneurship like careers. This is not just about your venture, but it's about, this is developing the entrepreneur, not just the business, and how we focus on that individual and what their path is. I think that's, and I think it goes back to this point others have made about lifelong learning, that it's actually, it's already begun as soon as that student, while the student's in the class, and then setting that expectation that this isn't over, we're here for you. So be that our venture program, also having students coming back and delivering projects or offering internships, they're all part of that entrepreneurship ecosystem we're trying to develop in that family. So I think that's the important thing.
Any last comments, Ebony?
And I probably should have added that while our focus here at the Center for Urban Entrepreneurship is the community, students, faculty, and staff are definitely, eligible to receive, our programs and service offerings. However, the focus is, the community. But one of the things that I will say is that at the end of the day, we're an academic institution. We operate because we have student enrollment. So that said, anytime, I'm writing a grant or submitting to an RFP, I always include an experiential learning piece in there where I can have a student on site as a co-op, because we are a co-op institution. So I just wanted to add that piece at the end.
Victor, anything else you want to add before we close out here?
Well, I want to thank you and the GCEC team for inviting us to share how we do mentorships here. I just want to put an accent there on this phrase that I stole from a colleague of mine at Yale Development. Engaging alumni must happen on campus, online, and on the road. And I think that's the best way to actually continue supporting students throughout, and alumni throughout their lives as entrepreneurs, because it's what's needed. And so I'm happy, that I can share these sort of insights. Hopefully, it will be helpful to anybody here. Please, let's connect. Let's collaborate. I'll be happy, to answer more questions, even those that weren't able to be answered through the chat.
This is great. So thank you to everyone here, all of our panelists. As you can see in the chat, this session has been recorded. It will be posted on the GCEC website along with our other webinars. I think it's a great topic, right? We talked a lot about mentoring today, but we all use alumni for competition judges, guest speakers, sometimes adjunct faculty, programs serving alumni, all these things. It's an important part of what we do is I consider really my job is around building an ecosystem, building a community, and alumni are a huge part of that, and force multipliers. So thank you all for sharing best practices and what you've learned there. And as we close out, I do want to remind everyone we have 2 more webinars already scheduled on April 28th. We're going to talk about the global mindset for student entrepreneurs. And then May 19th, hopefully before everybody graduates and has some summer break, we'll do integrating personal development into entrepreneurship curriculum. With that, before we close, I want to briefly or introduce for at least a few brief comments, our amazing director of the Global Consortium of Entrepreneurship Centers, Holly Diarmid. Holly, help us close out here.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. And thank you so much to everyone who's here today, especially thank you to our panelists. We can't have these excellent sessions without having a really excellent community to deliver these sessions. So thank you to Jeff and the panelists. I encourage you to go to our website. We do post all virtual connections, slide decks and recordings on our website. Connect with us on LinkedIn. We'll announce our virtual connections and other news, and just save the date because our October conference is launching next month, and we'll be calling on you to submit proposals for that October conference at University of Texas, Dallas. So again, thank you for being here, and I'll see you at the April virtual connection.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.